Welcome back to the Contested Realm, everybody. My name's Jesse Meulman-Marshall. Today, I'm joined by the one and only Louie from Kitchen Table TCG, aka GameGrove.gg. How are you, Louie?
What's up, man? How are you?
I'm really well. It's fantastic to be here with you chatting about the West Virginia Courtesan Cup Qualifier that you got coming up this weekend. Do you want to tell us a bit more about what the tournament is and what you're looking forward to?
Well, I can't pronounce it like you can, but I like to call it the Parmesan Cheese Cup. Yeah, I'm just excited for it. I'm excited. We got 48 people already signed up and full house. We are still going to have extra people come and hang out, and hopefully we'll be running some drafts and just having some fun there. But 48 people from all around. I got a guy coming from Iowa. We got people coming from Michigan, people coming from Ohio, kind of the localer side of things. Then our guys that play at our store. Yeah, no, people are excited. West Virginia is like in this weird spot. Like it's right in the middle of a lot of places. It's like a 2 to 3 hour drive from a lot of different areas. So
yeah, it's pretty good.
It's cool to see a good crowd coming out, and I'm really excited. And then this is of course qualifier for one that's happening in Baltimore, which is the big Courtesan Cup that has the foil Courtesan Thias, or however you can pronounce it for everybody.
I think you nailed it there. And you've opened a couple of those in your box openings from memory, haven't you? The alpha foils.
I have. I think I pulled 3. It might be 4, but I think I pulled 3.
And
so
for those of you,
I got pretty lucky there.
Yeah, for those out there who haven't watched all of your alpha box opening streams, how many alpha boxes did you end up opening on the channel?
So my goal was to open either a foil Philosopher's Stone or a Curio, and I finally opened the Philosopher's Stone foil on box 105.
One of the great moments
calculations
of sorcery content too, watching you eating the chair. How did it taste?
The chair tastes good. It's still got a little bite mark on it, but this is a nice chair. I splurged on this chair a while back because I'm sitting here so often. I was like, I gotta have a good chair. So I'm glad I didn't do too much damage to it.
Yeah. But that was a great moment, all jokes aside. Watching you finally hit that Philosopher's Stone foil after 105 boxes, it must have been a pretty great moment.
You know, the moment of the Philosopher's Stone was good, but the moments after, when we kept opening packs and we pulled, I think, another 3 or 4 alpha foil uniques that, you know, I just pulled it, so I was feeling good. So I gave away all the packs and everybody getting good stuff. It was a really big win for me because of the community behind it, and that was the win for me. I always told people there was no reason that I would have kept opening boxes had I not had somebody watching me. Like there's no reason to open 105 boxes. So
if you haven't got all those people along for the ride,
yeah, it made it so much more special. Like that's why I kept doing it, and it meant a lot to me to just be able to experience that moment with other people. So I was pretty excited about that. And now those people, a lot of them are showing up on Saturday this week for the event, and like that's just cool because like I get to, I don't know, I'm so often on the other side of a screen or a comment section, and to get to interact with the people who enjoy that content in person is going to be a lot of fun. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Absolutely, that's awesome. And so the event itself, what's the structure of your event? I know there are a lot of people out there who are perhaps organizing tournaments in their local scene or thinking about how to structure a sorcery tournament or what that might look like. Do you want to tell the audience a little bit about how you've chosen to run yours and some tips or tricks that you might have for other people looking to set up a tournament?
Yeah, so I mean, it's definitely interesting with sorcery. We're doing constructed, so I wanted to do a couple of the other events that were the bigger ones that were going on were sealed or draft and that kind of thing. So I wanted to do something different, do a constructed format. So I was hoping that we would be able to do best of 3, but now we got 48 people. We're going to have 6 rounds plus a cut to the top 8. And I don't want to make people stay for like a 2-day event. So we're going to do best of 1, 6, I think it's 6 rounds and then a cut to top 8. Yeah,
and you're going to run that all on the one day, the 6 rounds and then the top 8 cut?
Yeah, so we're going to start at noon, typically for events like that. The biggest thing I've learned, I've already been doing this for about a year or 2, but the biggest thing I've learned is like when you do a big event, let's start earlier than you think, because it always goes longer than you think it's going to go.
There's always those few little hiccups and things, aren't there?
Yeah, and when you have that many different games happening in a round, you always go to turns. Yes. Almost always you're going to have things go to turns. So every round is lasting an hour or 50 minutes or whatever it is, plus the turns. And So just, extra time. So that's something I've learned that we're definitely incorporating here. We're starting at noon, and yeah, we'll do the cut to top 8. We're gonna be streaming everything, which I'm really excited about too.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that I really want to touch on is for our audience out there who might be keen to watch some of this action or see what decks are there being played on the day. How can they tune in to watch the video stream?
Yeah, we'll just be at Kitchen Table TCG streaming.
And is that on the YouTube channel or?
Yeah, it'll be on the YouTube channel. And then we will keep that recording up. So even if you're watching this, a couple days after, you'll be able to pop that in and watch the different videos. And we've got some people coming in. I know that the whole team that's putting together the Courtesan Cup has some different stuff going on in terms of bringing in some guests and that kind of stuff. So we're going to be on my channel, but it's going to be a whole community effort from the whole team behind the Courtesan Cup, which is pretty cool.
That's very, very cool. And just to be clear for people, the dates of this event, is it this weekend? As in... It's
this weekend, which is March 8th, yeah.
March
for those
8th.
Of you who are in the future and it's March 10th, it's 2 days ago. But for us, it's in 8 days, or 3 days, sorry.
3 days, yeah. And if it does happen to be one of those people who's in the future watching this on the 10th of March, as you said, Louie, they can head along to your YouTube channel, Kitchen Table TCG, and watch the replay.
Yeah, and on top of that, I think another great YouTuber, my favorite sorcery content creator is Netherlings.
Oh yeah,
and we're gonna be he's gonna cut up a lot of the gameplay footage. I think him and I are gonna go back and overdub some of the commentary
of cool.
The gameplay footage, just to have some fun with it. And,
in his signature style.
Hopefully, yeah. That's why I love it. I just have always, every time I watch one of his videos, I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta get him on the channel to do something. And so I actually wanted to have him come to the event to do the commentary live, because that would have been the best way to do it. But he's in Texas, so it just didn't work out. But
right. And do you think he might do a few of his signature animations as well to go along with the commentary?
Oh, I hope so. I don't know if that costs extra or not, but I mean, it's worth it.
Absolutely. That's really cool. And so the tournament structure, we've talked about how people can watch the video. What about the prizes for people who are there on the day? There's those invites for the Courtesan Cup. What else is happening by way of prizes? And how many invites are there?
You're going to put me on the spot. All that's available on the link. No, the first place is getting an alpha foil packed with the devil.
Yep.
I think first place also gets a beta box. We've got the Crown Sorcerer promos. We've got those for I think the top 4 are getting Crown Sorcerer promos, and then we've got some of them to utilize for some other side event stuff. And then we had custom playmats made for the top 8, and then we have a Game Grove Champion belt, which is super cool. It's a playmat. It's a playmat that has the Game Grove champion belt on the playmat.
Yeah.
And it says winner of the West Virginia qualifier. I think second place gets a beta box. I think third place gets some packs and maybe a box. I don't know. It's lots of
pretty
prize
stacked
support.
prize pool.
Yeah, this
even
is
just those Crown Sorcerers and the invites is pretty awesome. But all those extra boxes and things on top is really cool.
Yeah, the big thing is the invite to go play in Baltimore for the big prize. I think this is really cool. A long time ago I was watching or listening to before the YouTube channel actually. I was listening to a podcast on the beginnings of Magic the Gathering, and the people were talking about how cool it was to be part of the first events for Magic the Gathering, and how it wasn't up to the company. The company wasn't doing anything. It was the community just created all these events in New York and in LA and in these different areas. And so for me, it's just really cool to be a part of that beginning for sorcery. And I think it's really cool that people will be able to look back and say, somebody will get to look back and say, I won the first large sorcery event on the East Coast in Baltimore. And somebody will get to say that. And I think that's a really cool thing. And so I know there's cool prize support at my event, but I think the really cool thing is the qualifying to a bigger event and making that trip and being a part of that community. I think it's just really, really cool. So, it's
awesome.
Just an honor to be a part of it.
Yeah, and Louie, for those of you who haven't perhaps watched as many of your videos, I encourage everyone to head along to Kitchen Table TCG and also check out the podcasts that you do with George and Josh as well. It's always a good time.
Yeah.
But for those of you, for those of you who haven't watched as much of Louie's content. Louie, do you want to just sort of share a little bit about your journey as a store as well, and some of the things that have attracted you to Sorcery, and why you've chosen to run one of these events, as you say, one of the first events leading into that Courtesan Cup final?
Yeah. Man, as a store and as a journey, I just love card games, and for me it's the way that card games like build community. So in the pandemic, when I started the YouTube channel, it was just really cool to be a part of something bigger than just myself, and interact with people and make connections and grow a community online. And then when the pandemic ended, I really focused on local scene. And so the ability to interact both online and in person, to me, is just such a valuable, I guess valuable is the wrong word, a meaningful thing. The relationships that I made with people in the pandemic, because of the YouTube channel, have carried over now into some of the, one of the first 200 subscribers to my YouTube channel. I actually, she worked for me for a year. She now has moved on to some other bigger stuff, but she moved out here and worked with me. Sorry. She was my store manager. And it's just one of the really cool relational things that we got to do because of the YouTube channel and the store and that kind of stuff. And so I'm just a big fan of community, and all the games that you create communities within a local store is really cool. But I also love the way that, because of the YouTube channel, it can grow into a bigger thing. And that's why this weekend is such a perfect culmination for me of stuff that I've created online, interacting with stuff that I feel like I've created a really cool place to be at Game Grove. And not just me, but we have curated, the team behind me, or with me, has curated at Game Grove. So I'm just really excited for those two things to mesh and merge into kind of one for the weekend. And
it does take a lot of energy to keep cultivating and working on game communities, and a lot of passion. And it's been great from our side of the fence, I think, to watch you, Louie, doing so much work in a local community as well. I know there are many other local game stores out there with people who are passionate, who pour a lot of their heart and soul into it. And it's just been great to have a chance to have a chat with you about your experience doing that too.
Yeah.
One of the other things I just want to touch on quickly was just the journey for you with Sorcery. It's been a long journey. You've been here since before the Kickstarter, very much invested in terms of your enjoyment in the game. Sort of lots of things would have drawn you in early in terms of the art and the gameplay and things like that. But as you come now towards, as you say, somewhat of a culmination of that journey in your first big event that you're running at your store, what are some of your observations about how running Sorcery and teaching Sorcery to people in your store has played out? What are some things you've enjoyed watching in your community as Sorcery games have been played?
Yeah, so the thing that caught me with Sorcery is from a gameplay perspective. Obviously, the artwork's beautiful, and there's a collecting side of me that I've talked a lot about on the channel. I love collecting things, and that caught my attention with Sorcery. But when I played my first game after I kind of learned, and the story that gets created by the minions and the characters, and the way that every game kind of ends with this, like, if only that had happened, or there's like a story to it, like where you could write a book about every game of Sorcery. It's it's a crazy theory behind however you guys have designed the game, that at the end of just about every game, you could take that and write it into a narrative that you could actually make a full-fledged, story out of.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that catches people and hooks them. It's no secret that Sorcery is a little bit of a more like a slower game than a lot of other card games, in terms of like you build up to it, and you're starting off, and your first turn is not going to be this like massive explosive thing, or maybe when I play it's just not. But it is a little bit like you have to really get into it. And the people who I've played with who have allowed themselves to experience that story have really, really fallen in love with the way the game is and the interaction that you can have. But then, that's from the local side. That's from me teaching people, right? But then I think it was shout out to Angerworm. I was playing a game with him. I did this like live stream where I hopped on. I was like, hey, anybody who wants to play against me, hop into Tabletop Simulator and pick a deck, and I'll play it and whatever.
Yeah.
And the way that he was able to create a deck that was just so much better and faster, and the complexity that was from somebody who has really, really dove into the actual deck building side of it. Also then turned me in, and that's when I started working on the Spark Mage deck and really thinking through like trying to be super aggro in the style. And now that we're playing like more regularly with a couple guys, the Campbell brothers are two guys at my store that really play a lot. And they hate that Spark Mage deck, and they're just trying to create something that can beat that. And it just reminds me of like
an poisonous dagger that they hate, or what is it that they hate facing?
It's just the speed and consistency of the deck. It's just a you don't. Yeah, that's my favorite type of deck to play. It's just something that, like,
have you got some Void Walkers in there, or how are you getting up in their face quickly?
I don't. The Void Walkers do it, but also it's just like the theory behind the Spark Mage. It always has something to do, right? You can always play a couple things and ping somebody for damage. It plays so straightforward, and that's what I've learned to love about the gameplay side, is that there's this story element to it, but then there's a complexity to the game.
Absolutely.
That you can dive into, and I'm not there yet. Like I'm not like a great card game player. I'm mostly, it's called kitchen table TCG, not competitive table TCG.
You can still enjoy the game though, right? And I think that's one of the great lessons of sorcery, isn't it? That it doesn't have to be that dichotomy of if we're playing to win, then we have to be ultra competitive and mean about it or something. You can enjoy your deck and enjoy what you're doing, but still be playing to win.
For the first month or 2 months, before beta came out, we were just playing common only decks. So I built probably 50 common only decks that, we had a list of 8 different decks, and I had my employees and everywhere were sorting cards and just building decks to give to people in the store. And the amount of games and fun interaction we had in that couple months before beta came out was also just incredible. And, just playing with the commons in the set. Or the ordinary, sorry.
Yeah, just ordinaries only. And the one of the things you touched on there was that intersection between the narrative that you can build and the strategic depth of the game. And I think you've probably found this as well. I've certainly found in my games that no two games are the same because of that, and you get to sort of play out all these different endings to similar stories all the time using your decks, which is kind of cool. Yeah.
And it's like when you play against your friends' decks repetitively, the stories to avoid.
Yeah.
So somebody has a rolling boulder in their deck, right? Like, like as soon as the rolling boulder's there, you got to, you've been here before, you have to get out of the way.
Yeah.
Right? Like you got to Indiana Jones that and get out of the way. And I just love that so much that you start, it's almost like hopping in a time machine of a TCG.
Yeah.
Where like you start learning what the story your opponent's trying to tell, and you try to rewrite it so that it works in your favor. And I love that.
That's very, very cool. Well, thanks so much for sharing all those thoughts, Louie. It's been a pleasure to chat. Look forward to watching the coverage this weekend of the West Virginia qualifier. And for those of you who are watching this down the track, do go and check out Kitchen Table TCG, check out the replay, and check out all the other great content that Louie's putting out about sorcery. It was great to chat to you today, Louie.
Yeah, thanks for highlighting it. And hey, thanks for being part of creating such an amazing game that works for communities and is awesome.
You're very welcome. Take care.